Hello, everybody. Welcome to round 23, the final week of the Formula One season recap that we have going on today on the whole story. It's been a long one, like we said, 23 rounds, one race gets canceled, so 22 races. I'm pretty sure we did the majority of them this year, which is a big step forward from last year. So, what we're going to do today is we're going to chat about the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. We're going to try to keep it mostly about the race this weekend. And we're going to have another show next weekend where we're going to talk maybe a little bit more about the year as a whole, maybe some of our favorite races. Some new news came out about teams changing names and kind of the broader picture of what we got going on forward in the winter next week. But this week, it's all about Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. And as always, I'm going to throw it to my boy Alex to give me that grade and let me know what he thought of the weekend as a whole.
I thought the race had some decent moments. That being said, I thought the race was kind of boring. Um,
Okay.
Quality about the same. So I don't know, like a 7 out of 10, 6.5 out of 10. It was a pretty boring weekend. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm right there with you on all that. I guess what I want to ask you is the announcers talked about it. I don't know why. I mean, it's not about the layout. There's just not a lot of exciting races there, and they've tried to change the layout up a few times. They got the two DRS zones back to back. You think that's pretty much the only excitement, and then it's follow the leader through the rest of the race, the rest of the lap. But I don't know why.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the layouts like I know they what was it? I know they had a stands problem. They spent what $5 million, or was it 5 billion or something like that on this track? It's a lot of money to spend on this track.
Yeah,
It was something crazy. Um, and I know they had a layout problem with the stands that they had to readjust because the stands at one point you couldn't see anything.
yeah.
And imagine paying that amount of money for a ticket and not being able to see anything and be upset. But yeah, I really don't know what they could do with this layout to really make it more exciting. I guess the DRS zones is the best option they really have going forward, and to try to play nuances with the cars and just to see what works and what doesn't. But yeah, Abu Dhabi hasn't been exciting for me other than like a few select qualifying sessions, I guess. But even then, it just hasn't been.
Well, we lost Alex early on in the show. I thought we were going to start off with no technical problems. Man, but to Alex's point, now that we got him back on, I think we got him back on.
Like
Hello,
exciting to watch.
hello.
Can you
You
hear me?
just you just came back.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So other than 2021, I think that's been the only year it's been somewhat exciting to watch. And even then, that was just because of the drama coming into it. And I was hoping this race would be a little more because there was a lot of, other than Red Bull dominating everything this season. We had a race for second place. We had a race for second place in the constructors championship, a race for fourth place in the drivers championship. And there was a lot of like little stories I could have worked with. And even towards the end, I think there was a race between Williams and Haas. No, sorry, not Haas. AlphaTauri
Yep,
for seventh place, I think it was. I
yep.
can't remember where it was, but yeah. Other than that, the races it wasn't exciting.
Yeah, even one of our favorite races that we like to reference, Abu Dhabi 21. It didn't have that much excitement unless
No, it really didn't. If it wasn't fabricated, yeah,
until that late safety car.
yeah.
Man, I really wish they'd go back to the end of the season in Brazil. I think that'd be cool.
I think so too. I think you throw Abu Dhabi maybe at the beginning. I would be completely okay with it starting at the beginning of the season too. I don't know if it's like a logistics problem or like why they don't do it right after what's the first race? Jeddah, right?
Yeah,
That's usually the first race of the season. I don't
Bahrain
understand why they
and
don't.
then
Yeah,
Jeddah.
Bahrain, sorry. So Bahrain, Jeddah, and then Abu Dhabi. I don't understand why they don't just do all three back to back to back as is. Uh, I'm assuming maybe the money there they want to be the last race, so they probably invest the most money into it
Yeah.
to getting that last spot. But yeah, I really wish it ended in Brazil or even Vegas now because Vegas seems like it's going to be a pretty good track going forward. I'd be okay with that too.
Yeah.
Um,
The only
but
thing
yeah,
I see for that type of stuff in Brazil I think would work too. It's just weather. Um,
yeah.
I think it's dicey to be put in Vegas that close to the end of the year. Um, I mean, you went
I mean,
from
are we projecting to end in December again for
uh,
next season?
I'm gonna assume if we're adding one more race, we would end close to it. Yeah.
Because I know it's
Um,
just like 11 months out of the year. So yeah, I guess we are ending in December. Yeah, I guess it makes sense. Yeah.
But logistically, like you're saying, it would make sense to do it earlier as well. But as Alex said, there's a lot of money in Abu Dhabi. Probably some little under the table deals going on. Little here, we're building this nice state of the art facility you can tell everyone about, and here's a little extra cash to make sure we get that final race of the year. I think there's a documentary on FIFA. I've never watched it, but I heard about it, and it's all dirty tricks and like all shady deals is how FIFA is run like
Oh
that.
yeah, yeah.
So, and I doubt the FIA would be any different when it comes to that. We had another late one for Alex and I on the East Coast here. To be honest, I did not watch. Saw a little bit of one practice just about, but I didn't really watch many practices. What did you get
Yeah,
a
I
chance to
watched a
see?
little bit of FP3 because I think
Yeah.
it was mid. I think it was later Friday for us.
Yep.
But I know I watched a little bit of FP3. I didn't end up watching the entire thing. I think it started really late. And I think that was it. I saw, FP1. We had Danny Rick getting onto the podium, and was it FP1 or FP2?
I think everyone.
FP1, and then I'm sorry, Ashton Martin's replacement. I can't remember his name. He got into P2, which I
Yeah,
thought was really impressive.
Felipe Dragovich.
Felipe's Dragovich, yeah. I saw people just like memeing Stroll, like this is my new son now.
I did see that meme. That is great that we were seeing the same ones. I love it. Yeah, FP1 was the big rookie session. My boy Brandon texted me. He didn't know. He was confused as to why there were so many rookies. They're mandated, the teams, to have a
One.
certain amount of rookies run a certain amount of practices throughout the year. And it really makes sense, too, with the way Formula One's set up. Like, these guys can't just take their cars to the local Silverstone or wherever their local track is and practice them whenever they want. They're only allowed to go on the track at specific times. Usually it's preseason testing or an offhand tire testing. I think they have a test coming up. So the only way to get some of these guys experience before you put them into an F1 car in a race weekend setting is to throw them into a practice. So I don't know what you think about that, Alex. I think it's a smart idea to get these guys experience before they go jump on in with the big dogs.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it does kind of suck again with situations like I think Mercedes had a tough time this weekend. I think because they didn't have proper data. Um, and I do agree with you. I think there's no other way because F1's such a very nitpicky sport. There's only 20 people competing in this, and about there's like what four pay drivers on the market on the out of the 20 right now. So it's kind of hard to get in there. So you kind of as a rookie you got to find a way to make noise for yourself unless you have money to back you up. But these practice sessions are the only opportunity they really get to like show that they're capable of it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I feel like a lot of times with teams kind of try to push it off. I feel like to the later part of the year,
They
maybe
do.
hoping their spot is solidified. Okay, we're already here in constructors and drivers, so this won't affect us that much. We want to make sure we're getting the data early on in the year when we're trying to develop the car, and that's also important. But then you get down to the last race of the year, and you're Mercedes and Ferrari, and you're probably looking for as much data as possible, fighting for P2 in the constructors, and you miss a practice, which as Alex mentioned, probably hindered Mercedes a little bit, especially Lewis Hamilton for sure. So it's also an interesting weekend, and we have a couple of them where FP1 is kind of garbage because it's in the day, and there's nothing in the day. FB2 is kind of the most important practice because that is when the track is at that's at night. It's the same time as they'll be qualifying and racing essentially. And then FP3 is kind of another throwaway practice. So I think there was like a red flag in FP2, and it just makes that one practice so much more important than a normal race weekend.
Yeah, and it sucks because like you said, you only get one chance to really get it down.
Yeah, and you better have it together. So we'll get right into qualifying here. As Alex said, Alex is if you're new to the show, Alex is the biggest proponent and fan of qualifying. My man has stated multiple times that sometimes more exciting than the race. But he said this one was very mid, and I kind of agree with him. I didn't find this one. This one didn't. There's a lot of people in interesting spots, but
Yeah.
it just didn't. I don't how to put it right. It didn't have that excitement.
Like because I think all season, let's say like at least 70% of the season, Max pulls off an incredible last second Q3 sector to somehow take over a Ferrari or a McLaren or a Mercedes or an Aston Martin. I don't know if he ever had to do that with the Aston Martins.
Yeah,
Regardless, just in
Monaco.
general, well, yeah, you're right in Monaco. You're right. Just in general, like the qualifying sessions have been pretty exciting this year, and it's been because it's been so close. Like these lap times are close, and it's never been a question of who has to pace. Or I'm sorry, Red Bull's dominance hasn't come from the one lap pace. It's just been from strategy, tire deg, and stuff like that. So when the only chance a Red Bull has realistically a chance of getting beaten is in qualifying, it makes for an exciting show.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I agree with Alex. And like we said, this one just didn't have that excitement. Man, no shocker here in 20th place in qualifying. Logan Sargent couldn't keep that car on the track, put a lap together. 19th, we had Joe Guanyu, Valtteri Bottas 18th, K Mag 17th, and Carlos Sainz would be the big shocker down in 16th place. Man,
Which I feel we failed to mention, by the way. In FP3, he had a big crash, or FP2 or FP3, he had a
I think
big
it was
crash.
FP2.
And I think that didn't really help with the car.
Yeah, big shunt FP2. Again, there was a very tight margin going into second in the constructors between Ferrari and Mercedes. When Carlos Sainz get eliminated in Q1, as a Mercedes fan, I'm very excited because it puts them on the back foot. But if you're a Ferrari fan, you're gutted. And yeah, I mean, hindsight, we're going to talk about the race, maybe not the best pace. But in the moment, that was a pretty big shocker for him to not get out of Q1.
Yeah. And yeah, with hindsight, I guess we'll discuss that later. But yeah, I agree with you.
Yep. So Q1 elimination, we go into Q2. 15th is Danny Rick. 14th is Alex Albon. 13th is Lance Stroll. 12th is Esteban Ocon. And then the shocker out of this group is Lewis Hamilton qualifying 11th. Coming off the track and immediately saying there's something wrong with this car. I just can't figure it out. If you did pay attention to the practices, George was in the top three, top five for most of them, when Lewis wasn't. So it kind of looked like George was going to have a leg up on Lewis this weekend, and this qualifying kind of showed it. Alex, what do we think? Lewis Hamilton 11th, Stroll 13th, and his teammates in 7th, and then Danny Rick in 15th when his teammates in 4th. What do you think the shockers out of that group are?
Obviously, Lewis. Stroll making it to Q2 is just a shocker in itself. Um, no, trolling. No, that actually margin's been pretty quick this last session or last few races. So I thought that's another shock if you really want to say so, just on pace alone. But yeah, Lewis couldn't come to grips with the car, and again, that's what we were referring to back when FP1, where they didn't get the info they wanted, and Lewis. It seems like George figured out the balance of the car where Lewis couldn't, um, which I kind of find a little fascinating to me because everybody's seeing from what I'm seeing online, everyone seems like George is like this great teammate to Lewis and vice versa. I think it's the same a little bit as times. But then it seems like they're both withholding a little bit of information. He's definitely more of a Rosberg than a Bottas for sure, but it seems like they're both withholding a little bit of information on how to figure out this exact balance of the car.
Yeah, yeah. I mean that. I don't know if the car is getting developed for towards one of them more than the other. It
Mm-hmm.
just really looked like Lewis had the upper hand the last couple races. Brazil was a little bit sketchy. Maybe we didn't get to see what was really up there. But man,
Yeah.
George really brought it this weekend here, and Lewis down in 11th is quite a shocker for sure. Then we get into Q3 here. We have Pierre Gasly 10th, Sergio Perez with the ninth. I believe he had a lap time deleted, which threw him down
He
there.
did. He would
Nico
have been fifth.
Hulkenberg doing what Nico Hulkenberg does on Saturday, putting it up in 8th. Alonso 7th. Yuki killing it in 6th with his team bosses last race. Lando 5. Little bit of oversteer, really slowing down his lap there,
Yeah.
which probably would have put him on the front roll. But we got no what ifs in this sport. So 5th for Lando. George in 4th. Oscar 3rd. Charles for the 5th race in a row, I believe they kept saying, on the front row in 2nd. And then
Yeah.
Max Verstappen doing what he does in 1st place there.
That was on his first outlet for Q3, but which is pretty shocking to mention because everybody was going out and which with the track evolution, you would think he would get a faster time in his second session, but he put it down there once and he was all set.
Yeah, he is. I mean, Max is that guy. That's what he does. Um, like we said, Lando was the one who maybe could have given him a little something, but you got to you
Charles
got to
had
put it
a
together.
Charles had a really impressive qualifying too, because if I remember right, in his first out lap, I think he was down there. I think it was like P7 or P8 or something like that. And then he pulled it. I don't know how he pulled his lap he did, which is super impressive because I didn't think he was going to be able to do it, especially with like we said we were worried about that Ferrari pace after Carlos Sainz went out. But again, hindsight's 2020. We didn't know what was really going on. Yeah, I think Charles had a pretty impressive race, and obviously Yuki. I think that's what we were referring to when we had people ending up in interesting positions. Yuki finishing P6 is a big one.
Yeah.
Obviously, who else am I forgetting? Lando with a slip up. Oscar was pretty. Did Oscar was P4?
Oscar's P3.
P3? Yeah, Oscar
Yep.
had a pretty impressive lap himself too. I thought he was going to hold second, and then Charles pulled out that zinger at the end.
Yeah, it was kind of indicative of how the year went. Was that Verstappen was able to, I think, save a couple runs, not go out as many as the other guys. Like you said, Leclerc went out on a used set of tires for his first lap in Q3. So then he put new boots on for the last lap, and that's when he pulled that out. I think Max went out on 2 new sets, and I think that's why he did what he did in the first run.
Gotcha.
Because just Max lays down these laps in Q1 and Q2, and then doesn't need to go out when everyone else does. Which is, if you got the car, all power to you, and way to get that done. So it was a good race as far as no penalties in qualifying. What do you think about all this nonsense about like them passing in pit road and what? Why is this
the
just
practice sessions and stuff.
why is this such a problem?
I I think the pit road's really narrow as is, and I guess I can understand both perspectives because Max is upset at the Mercedes, but I think the Mercedes were both behind an Alpine. I think if I remember right, that was like in front of them. It was some car in front of them too. It wasn't like they had anywhere to go either. Um, I understand Max's perspective in the sense that he didn't get ample enough time to really practice and get some sessions out there because I'm pretty sure he was in the garage for a while. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I think it's really unsafe to be doing that, but I also understand why he did do it. And then what was the other one? There's one more I'm forgetting. Oh, Alonso did it too. I don't know who
Yeah.
did it first, but I know Alonso did it too.
But we've been doing this qualifying format for a lot of years now, and it just seems like the last couple months. I don't know if it's. I don't know. It just seems worse in the last couple months with drivers slowing each other up, and them the pit them feeling like they need to make rules. Okay, once you pass this pit exit line, you need to hit your lap by a certain amount of time. Like it just seems crazy. I don't know. It just
It's
where was this
immature and
problem?
petty, to be honest. I think, and on top of that, I do think this is a dangerous pit exit too. It's a weird spot to be exiting at. Yeah, a lot of these drivers just have egos that are just uncontrollable though as well. So there's that.
Okay. Yep. All right. Well, hey, we got a race weekend here. Um, man, going into turn one, Leclerc was on the inside a little bit, but it didn't come to fruition. Um,
Yeah, I think the announcer made a play at it or said something about it. There was 2 chances I think Leclerc had on him, and it just seems
yeah.
like Leclerc played it way too safe. I guess you kind of have to because he knows he's realistically probably not going to beat Max, but so he doesn't want to chance of taking damage.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I really wish Leclerc played it a little more aggressively and tried to make some moves there.
Yeah. Because once Max got away on lap one, I think anyone watching with a brain knew that the race was pretty much over.
Hey,
Um,
I was sorry. I'll wait till later in the race to mention what I was going to say.
Okay. The race kind of settled out with Max in one, Charles in two. Um, I think Oscar three. Lando jumped George for four, and then George ended up in fifth there. The top five they stayed the same for a little bit, and then Oscar started dropping back. I believe he got passed by both Lando and by George. Man, what do you think's up with Oscar's race pace compared to his qualifying pace?
He's kind of difficult for me to entirely figure out, if I'm being honest. It seems like he seems to get off to these slow starts during the overall weekend, and then somehow come qualifying time, at least towards the end of qualifying time, he just kind of puts it together. When it comes to race pace, I don't know if he's trying to be a little too aggressive on the tires and trying to get some overtakes in early, or what's going on strategy wise. I really couldn't tell you what Oscar thinks. He is a rookie, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, and he's obviously rookie of the year, and he's had a pretty impressive rookie season. But yeah, it's definitely something he definitely has to work out the kinks on.
Yeah, I'm just interested if he has like a different car setup or he just pushes too hard the first couple laps. Um, you
I'd
know,
assume it might be a setup thing too, because
yeah.
obviously Lando's a little more experienced, and Oscar's going to want a little bit different of a setup, maybe. So like,
Yeah,
that's a good point.
overall through the race, it kind of stabilized. He kind of like he stayed there, pretty much in fifth. Sergio, of course, was going to come. He's been on a better form lately the past couple of weeks. And George and Lando passed him, but he was able to stabilize his car there. But yeah, just Oscar race pace is not. If anyone was trying to hype him up, compare him to Lando, you're gonna have to take a seat because Lando's still daddy in that team for sure. So. Yeah, interesting first little stint though there. Pretty much everyone was on a two-stop strategy. Yuki had a great start. They left him out.
That's
They
what I
left
was
him.
going to say. Yeah.
They left him out to dry. I felt like. What do you think? I don't. I don't. I think it's.
Listen, Yuki's never going to get a chance to lead a Grand Prix again. Let's be honest here. He had his moment. I was cheering for him. I was rooting him on. But
So
yeah, he's
you're.
obviously not that ugly. I was so happy though.
So
Obviously, like, sorry.
good strategy call or bad strategy call?
Oh, horrible strategy
Okay.
call. But I was just so happy to see him. I was just so happy to see him in the lead. I
Yeah,
was like, this man's got to be freaking out right now.
he was running some decent laps too. I was like maybe they have the secret strategy. But he did not. He got passed towards the end of the race. That strategy really came back to bite him. But there was a couple interesting battles early on. Lewis